My oldest son was born, went on baby leave, and I came back and there was a baby not breathing call that, the kid's fever had spiked. I go, get there. By the time I get there, mom put the kid in the bathtub, got her to cool down. By the time I get there, she's awake and crying. I remember them button her up in the car seat to take her to the hospital, just as a precaution. And I'm walking back to my car and I take my keys out to unlock the door, and my hand is shaking so bad I can't get the key. And I'm like, I sit in the car and I go, what is wrong with me? And I went, oh, my dad. It hit me that I was like, oh no, you start to personalize, you just can't help it.
Welcome to today's episode of First Responder Wellness Podcast. My name is Chris Logan. I'm the Director of Clinical Operations and the host of the podcast today. Our goal here is to help get out there what it is that our first responders deal with and how it is that they can potentially reach out to get help. First Responder Wellness is a treatment organization out of Newport Beach that helps first responders with all of the stressors that come with being a first responder. We have a very special guest here today. He's a guy I've had the opportunity to get to know. And my hopes here is that we are going to allow everyone out there to get to know him. And so without saying much more, I'd like you to formally introduce yourself if you would, sir.
My name is James Merrill. I've been in law enforcement for almost 25 years. I worked for a very large sheriff's department. I've been able, throughout the course of my career, to work a whole bunch of assignments. I spent 16 years of the 25 as a detective, which is where my heart will always be when it comes to the job. It's what I thoroughly enjoyed, waking up every morning and coming into work. The law enforcement's a fun job anyways, but I really, really like being a detective. Last couple of years, I stepped out of that role, promoted, became a supervisor, which probably has been one of the most fulfilling things in my entire career, which...
Nice.
There's a lot of supervisors that would see this and would be like, I told you so. I didn't want to listen to
the
them.
Dreaded supervisor promotion.
I was like, that's not for me. That's not. And a dear friend of mine cornered me in a car for 6 hours and convinced me. And he was absolutely right. He was as much as I love being a detective for me, being a supervisor for the other people has just been the best. Yeah. It has been so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as you make your way into a leadership position, it becomes primarily about building teams and supporting your teams, which I think becomes a huge passion at some point as well. So it sounds like you've had a really great law enforcement career, right? Got to do some really cool things, which I'd love to hear a little bit about as we kind of get further down the road here. Yeah. But can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up? What was it like to be little James, and what got you pointed in the direction of working as a law enforcement officer?
Yeah, I grew up, I was the oldest of three kids. I have a brother and a sister. My dad was... My dad was actually a cop when I was growing up.
Oh, wow.
And in another state, and he worked for a department where you took the car home.
Nice.
And so when I was a kid, I drove around in a police car every day. And
back and forth to school and things like that?
Everywhere.
How cool.
And like, it's so funny to look back at it now. It was normal. Like it didn't seem like it was something out of the ordinary. It didn't seem, and I don't know that I ever, growing up, I don't know that I ever wanted to be a cop. I don't know that thought had ever really crossed my mind. I think I was very unsure of what I wanted to do with my life. I know I needed to do something. I started working when I was 16. I loved having a job. I loved working. my dad had actually left law enforcement when we came to California. He was in the Air Force Reserves, and so his reserves brought him out to California, where I was about, I don't know, 8, I think, when we landed in California, and we loved it. And I never even thought about the military. I mean, it was kind of weird. I knew I wanted to do something. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Well, I mean, you're 8 years old. It would make sense. You probably want to play in the dirt and play with your Hot Wheels at that point in time.
I've always been told I was an old man from when I was a baby. And
you got that old soul?
Yeah. But I was like, hey, I got to get going, man. I got to start working. Like, what time do we start?
I'll be 9 next year.
Yeah. It's like, I got to get this ball rolling. So I ended up working for a friend, and I had worked at the mall. And then I ended up getting a job catching shoplifters, and it paid like way more than what I was making. Sounded like a fun job.
So you're 16, 17 years old. You're doing loss prevention.
I think I started when I was probably 19.
19.
Probably about 19.
Working loss prevention. So you're just kind of tracking guys through the aisles and turning them in.
And
or are you snatching guys up?
Oh, we're snatching dudes up. We are full
this
on.
This is a different time.
Yeah, oh yes, you're watching them. Past the last point of sale, and we're watching on a camera, and then we're running
for
as
to walk
fast
out
as
the
we
door.
can to catch them outside the door. And I mean, I remember chasing guys for blocks over some shirts and some,
$15 worth of Hanes underwear.
Yeah, and
they are not our sponsors yet.
And it was one of those things where I think I learned 2 things about myself then. One, I didn't see the danger. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's go get them. And 2, I was like, I think the very first time I was in a foot pursuit, I was like, I can do this for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm in. And I went, oh, I know what the next step would be. I know where I would want to go. And I was dating my now wife. We are getting married. I was 21. So like right before we're getting married, I bump into a friend of mine that I grew up with in school. And he was a police explorer in the city we grew up in. And I bump into him and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I was catching shoplifters. I'd actually moved. I'd actually moved to another place that paid better.
What do you remember? What store? I know it's kind of an odd question, but what stores you were working for?
So I worked for Got Shocks. Was the first in the San Bernardino, the mall, not the Carousel, but the newer mall, the Inland Center Mall, and perfume and I had a lady who stole like a real high-end like butcher knife and a cleaver set, and we pull her back in and everything's fine, and she's just losing her mind. She's
crying
just
and upset,
kind of
yelling,
agitated,
screaming.
And now I know what that is. At the time I was just like, oh, it's a crazy person. It's probably meth. And she ends up, I need my medicine. Well, we had kind of searched her, and she's sitting there, and she's, agitated but fairly cooperative. And she reaches into her purse and pulls out, she'd cut a little hole, and she pulls out like one of those big toenail clippers with a knife on it. And it was already open. And we're in this tiny little office.
Back office in a store somewhere. Yeah.
And I remember backing up to the door, and she's like, I'm getting out of here. And I back up, and I'm trying to make it out the door. I'm trying to get out. Well, the door swings inward. So if I open I got to get closer to her, and I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. And I just grab her arms, pick her up. Now knowing what to pick her up, she's a lot smaller than me, and slammed her on the desk and took the knife away from her. And, my partner jumped in, and we got her in cuffs and everything. And then we were just like, it's like afterwards, somebody's like, oh man, you could have, she could have stabbed you. And you're like, it wasn't even a thought. My first thought was get out of there. And
that's so interesting. And I want to kind of back up just a little bit, and I'll tie that into where we're at now. But you talk about like your dad driving his police cruiser home, right? And like taking you to school and those sorts of things. And that was such a different time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it just, I don't know that happens anywhere anymore. If it does, it may be in some small town somewhere, right? But it's certainly not happening in with these big departments in these big cities. But I have to imagine, being a small kid, getting driven to school in a police car had to come with some just some street cred and some pride, and your dad's the guy that's showing up for show and tell and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So there was just a different time.
One of the things that I think the very first thing that stood out to me, how that time affected me, was in high school. And you had guys
I was going to say, now fast forward, that's not so cool anymore.
That's not so cool anymore. But you would see guys just see a police car and start talking crap and start saying bad things. And I just never, I was like,
I live with the guy.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, he's not doing nothing. It's one of those, especially as you get older, you realize the impact that I had a much more positive view of police than other people I grew up with. And, I don't think I started hearing stories from my dad really until I had applied to the sheriff's department and started the process. And it was I had a much different view of it, which I think led to some of those decisions. It sounds dumb. I think that me growing up like that, when you're faced with those situations, you're like, well, you got to do something. Right. Can't just sit here and stare at each other. And even though this lady tried to stab me, I was like, okay, see you guys tomorrow.
Already learning how to compartmentalize things and move on.
100%. Yeah. Yep. Let's just, okay, cool. See you tomorrow. And I know my mom was very worried about my dad and very concerned. And when I applied to the sheriff's department, I called my dad. I said, hey, Dad, you're probably going to get some letters and stuff. I've applied to the sheriff's department. And he goes, oh, you'll love it. I miss it. I had so much fun. The job is so great. How do we tell your mom?
How do we tell mom? Mom's not going to be cool with this.
And I was like, that's why I'm calling you.
You had the answers.
We got to figure out how to do this. And definitely for the first few years of my career, my mom was scared to death.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And knowing some of the stories that my dad had went through and some of the stuff, obviously stuff that I probably don't even know that my dad went through, that my mom was very, very concerned.
And this is on the heels of your crazy loss prevention career too, by the way.
Okay.
Let's not forget that. That was also a different time though, right?
Let's be honest here. I don't think my mom's ever heard that story.
Sorry, Mom.
There's a lot of that. Because, you feel like, especially when you're young and you're, what I always called I was 26 and bulletproof.
Bulletproof, yeah.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. I got this. But I still didn't want my mom to worry.
Sure.
And I think I was more open with my wife to the point of, now I look back and kind of go,
a little too much.
I probably should have left some stuff out. Yeah. There's nothing that they can do or say or teach you to prepare you for what you deal with.
Yeah.
And, depending on where you work, there are some places that don't get it as frequently. They still get it, but they don't get it as frequently. We work someplace that's nonstop, and you're just, compartmentalizing and moving along and moving on and going on to the next. And there's young me, completely thrived in that. I was good to go.
Jumping in the deep end.
But I don't care, whatever it is, because I liked it and I felt like I did a
good job
of handling that stuff. And so when you find something that you really, it's that passion that burns in you, you're like, it's not all glamour and glory, but you feel like you're helping and you're doing something for people. It's really, it makes you feel good.
I imagine. And I know this about you because I've gotten the opportunity to get to know you. But at the end of the day, it truly is about helping other people. And I think there's a pride that comes with that, and a piece of you that really thrives on knowing at the end of the day, right? Yeah, the chase was worth all of it, because at the end of the day, we took a bad guy off the street, or we put somebody in jail who committed this crime, and we're able to go back and tell the families, like, hey, this is what we did, and here's the justice in what it is, right? So there is a piece of you that's absolutely doing it for all the reasons in helping people, but then there's a piece that says, I got to prove who I am, one, and two, I just flat out like it. Right. There's an adrenaline that comes with all of it. Absolutely. That it can't be matched anywhere else, I'm sure. Right. And
you can't. I was talking to somebody really at the patrol level, when you're driving around in black and white, there ain't no beating that, because you're having a day, good day, bad day. You're tired. You're feeling great. You're sick. You're whatever. And all of that goes out the window the second something happens.
Yep, when it pops off. That's for sure.
It's rising to that occasion that really, I mean, it does. It feels good, and being able to. There was this gigantic house party we were breaking up. This was years ago when I was on patrol, and we're shoving 300 people out of this very nice house, and they're all walking down the street, and everybody's leaving. And it's peaceful, it's calm, and there's 4 of us deputies. We're all standing together, and about 100 yards down the road, these 2 guys start shooting at each other right in front of us, and
in a crowd full of people,
just at least 200 people on the street, and 2 of the guys jump in cars, and me and another guy just take off running. And as we're running past everybody, you're watching these, 200 people that were kind of not thrilled with you to begin with,
right,
ducking and just pointing.
Right. They're now on your team.
And you're running past them to go, and one of the guys jumped in a car and sideswiped another car, and we ended up getting them later. But it was one of those, like, it's surreal when you look at it, because you're just like, it wasn't even a thought.
And you don't even think about it. And I think that's what most people don't realize about law enforcement in specific, right? Like you're talking about a house party that got broke up, estimated 300 people, 200 people out on the streets, 2 guys opened fire. The majority, if not all of the people, are running away from that, minus the 2 of you who are running towards it without a second thought. And I don't think people really comprehend what that means and how different it is for law enforcement in those moments. Like, you don't think about, listen, I'm sure the initial sets in and the panic hits and all of that, but your training says we don't go this way, we don't retreat, we move forward, right? And we're going to go towards the threat, and we're going to figure out what's going on, right? We're going to assess this thing, we're going to gain control, and we're going to take this thing out. And most people don't realize that is something, I don't know if you can teach that. To be honest with you, I don't know if you can teach that. And I think you're the person to answer that question better than I am.
I've done a lot of teaching, basically investigation stuff over the course of my career. And a lot of this stuff, if you don't know how to do it, you can be taught it to a degree. Like I was talking about being a people person and talking to people like that. You can not be so good at it, and you can kind of gain ground on how to be a people person, how to talk to people. And I think it's the same thing for that reaction.
Interesting.
Like, you can kind of force yourself into it, but you're behind the guy that just the switch has been flipped and off you go.
And you just kind of follow that guy.
And that's, and I know that I knew that was me from high school, like my friends, my dear friends that I still every once in a while get to see today. Anytime there's anything dangerous or like somebody's got to climb down there, and we'd be group, and we would all be and they'd all be looking right at me, and then I'm like, all right. And I didn't I didn't think about that until I was older. It was just one of those things I was like, oh yeah. I think one of them pointed out to me, is like, you were always the guy that we could, if it was dangerous, like, you were like, all right.
You guys going to do it.
And that, I don't, being a dad now, I don't know that I would wish that upon my sons.
Right.
But it worked out good for me. The reaction is something that, because you do see, and you have people who will, and to your point,
freeze up or retreat.
And
yeah.
As a cop, you can't.
Right.
And so, I know they drill that into you, and they try and teach that to you. And to some extent you can, but at the same time, when you see those people,
right,
you can't help but kind of hurt for them, because you're like, man, this career may not be for you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's just, you got to be able to put yourself in harm's way, even though my mom and my wife and I think my dad understands better than they do, but
right.
But like, that would, if they were there, they'd be stopping me.
Right.
Whoa, yeah. What are you doing?
And that's what I mean by that's a piece I don't think you can teach. I think you can teach people the logistics of how to respond in those situations and what to do. But to your point, I think those are the people that might follow the guy who instinctively knows what to do. And they're like, oh, there it is. Right. And some people are born with it and some are not. And I don't, I wouldn't downplay anybody's career in law enforcement. Just like you said, I have so much respect for anybody who's even willing to sign that piece of paper to put themselves out there to do any piece of that puzzle, right? Because it's a huge thing. And so you're doing those sorts of things, right? Like, I mean, and early on, right? We just talked about it. Your little loss prevention career, you're chasing people down the street without a first thought in things, right? You're taking down the knife wielding house mom who's off of her medication, and now we're dodging bullets from a house party. And how long was it that sort of stuff that you were dealing with? And because I know you came from a big department, so and I think there was a lot of stuff that you got to deal with, but how long was it of that kind of stuff, right?
So I did about I did 5.5 years as a deputy before I got promoted, 3 of which were on patrol. And I think that myself, but really my family, like, oh, you're going to be a detective, you're going to be sitting in an office, and you're going to be safe, and I think I kind of viewed it that way a little bit. I mean, I knew what detectives did, and I knew that wasn't.
We've all seen SVU, dude.
Yeah, 100%. But like you. It's a different job. And so I know they felt like I was safer. That this was a better thing for the family and for everybody involved. And it wasn't true.
I mean, trading one for the other, right? Like,
yeah.
You're still getting filled up with trauma over here. Right. You're not dodging bullets at this point, maybe, or the danger is not as imminent, right? It's not right in your face kind of a thing, but there's still a lot that you are dealing with that's kind of putting you in a position to start to feel it.
You're dealing with other people's trauma, but it's one of those, it's hard to explain to people, when you talk to somebody and you're asking them, what happened, or what did you see, or what is, usually it's on the heels of whatever event occurred. Sometimes it's not, but you're interviewing these people, and because the best way to solve that case and the best way to solve that crime is to get the information out of them pretty quickly, right. It's uncomfortable.
Sure.
It's not... there are so many things in law enforcement across the board that go against my personal nature.
Right.
Polite, don't pry, and you have to, don't ask rude questions of anybody, that you have to overcome really quickly.
Yeah.
And you don't realize what that does to you over time, or, I remember, I'd seen dozens of dead people on patrol. I mean, that's, I stood over guys that died in front of me.
Yeah.
Other people we thought were going to die that lived, but you're watching the reaction and trying to help them as best you can. And the very first time I went to a dead body as a detective, it felt like nothing. It was another day at the office. It's no big deal. The very first time I went to a dead kid as a detective, I still remember it clear as day.
Yeah.
And it's those things that you just go, I can deal with this. I'm fine. I can muscle through. And then the number of dead children I've had to deal with starts to take its toll.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah. And that's probably one of the more difficult pieces. And working with first responders, I know that it's always the kid calls, right? Like, you guys have a way of rationalizing and justifying what adults do. And not that anybody, condones adults killing adults or having to see those things. But at the same time, it's like, they had a choice in the matter most of the time.
Yeah.
And then you got some victims, and I get that. But the kids are truly the innocent ones. And I think so much of that sticks with you guys so much more. And in working with first responders continuously, whether it's fire, EMTs, law enforcement, like those are the ones that just kind of hang around. You said something really interesting that I want to kind of touch on it. And it was that there's so much that you have to do in those early stages of like trying to extract information from somebody that goes against your own like nature, like who you are. And I don't know that anybody really understands that. I think most people in those moments view it as you guys being cold and intrusive, right? And not understanding like, if we're going to get to figuring this thing out and resolve this and get some sort of justice, I've got to get that information now. And being so uncomfortable yourself, like the nature of you is like, and I know you, and that is not you. You're not that guy. You are absolutely the guy who's like kinder and compassionate and more empathetic and wants to give space to kind of, let people have their emotions and those sorts of things. But you don't have time for that. Right? Like I've got to start asking these really uncomfortable questions. And I think what a conflict in somebody that like, this isn't who I am, but I know it's what I have to do if I'm going to get any resolve or any justice for this person, right? You might be having to ask those difficult questions. And then I have to imagine that just starts to chip away at your own kind of personal integrities and like who you are. And it starts to bleed out in other areas of your life.
Oh, absolutely. When you bring it up, I'm not a very confrontational guy. I'm pretty easygoing. Yeah. And being a cop, you're just confrontational. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. It's like, hey, that guy, go get him. Hey, whoa, stop talking. Yep. We got something going on. We got to deal with it. And now it feels like you're putting on there's a different work me. There's a different that has to show up, that has to do these things that regular me in a million years wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do.
And I have noticed, I have some dear friends that have since retired. I'm getting there close. They're a different person when they're retired a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you just look at them and they're happier and they're obviously, nobody's like, hey, can I come back?
Right.
Or, they because I think a lot of us have to put forth that person that handles the situation.
Right.
And then now that person's not needed anymore and you can kind of just be yourself. I can't tell you how many times I have asked questions I would never in a million years ask in polite or even direct friends or family members. Yeah. It's not natural to me. But if you put me in the room and you turn a recorder on,
here we go.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And it does. You don't realize it. You don't realize what's going on with you because you're in it. I mean, I was promoted to detective, and I was a detective for about a year. And about 6 months in, I get pulled into the office, and they say, "Hey, would you be willing to go work homicide?" And of course, that's like that's it.
Detectives.
That's it.
The detectives. I have arrived.
And so I'm like, yep, I'm in. Two of my very dear friends that I worked patrol with, both had gone to homicide, and I get a phone call. "Hey, are you good with it? We're throwing your name in the hat." And I said, "Yeah, I'm good with it." And that led to them telling me, "Hey, you're going to go here in a few months." But one of the conversations I had with Jim, he says, "Hey, what are you most worried about?" And I said, "Kid stuff. Most worried about kid stuff." And I tell the story because every time he tells it now, he tells everybody how horrible he feels. The discussion was had when I landed there that they needed to make sure I was okay. So Jim was working a baby case, a child abuse case, where the kid was in a coma for a few months and then passed away.
They put you right on it.
Took me to the autopsy. Yep. I mean, right by my first couple of days.
They're going to shake you up. Yep.
And it, like I said, I remember so much of it clearly. But at the time, I rationalized it to myself because through the autopsy, they were able to figure out this kid actually it wasn't just a child abuse; it was a murder of a kid, which was beneficial. And then you do like at least it was worth it.
That's what it took.
I get it. Okay, I could do this. And so it didn't, at least on the surface at the time, that didn't bother me at all. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But the dead children didn't stop coming, and it's the worst. Like you said, that is the worst thing that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Having kids of your own,
I was gonna say how much of that changes too once you have your own kids.
So the story I always tell, I've told my kids this. I was on patrol in my first year. I was actually in a training program when I found out my wife was pregnant, and had been to dead baby calls, had been to, like juvenile medical aid, baby not breathing calls. Fine. Didn't register one bit. My oldest son was born, and went on baby leave, and I came back and there was a baby not breathing call that, the kid's fever had spiked. And so they put it out to us because we can usually beat fire there. Sometimes we drive like idiots and we can get there faster than the fire truck. So I get there. By the time I get there, Mom, it's another one of those things.
Yeah.
I remember this clear as day. They had put the kid in the bathtub, got her to cool down. By the time I get there, she's awake and crying. I remember them button her up in the car seat to take her to the hospital, just as a precaution. Firefighters like, "You guys did the right thing. It's great. She's fine." And I'm walking back to my car, and I take my keys out to unlock the door, and my hand is shaking so bad I can't get the key. And I'm like, I sit in the car and I go, what is wrong with me? And I went, "Oh, my dad." I was like, "Oh crap."
Yeah.
That was the first.
Dad now.
It hit me that I was like, "Oh no, you start to personalize. You just can't help it."
Yeah.
And there were, there was a kid. It was an accident, and the kid passed away. Same age as my son, blonde hair, just like my son.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to do the autopsy. That was part of my assignment. And I went to my partner on the case and I said, "Nope,
can't do it.
I need you to do this for me. I cannot do this."
Yeah.
And he was, and he understood. law enforcement gets like the bad rap, and I know years ago it was this way, but I'm talking, close to 15 years ago.
Bit of a different
16 years
time.
ago.
Yeah.
Even then, they were like, "You got it,
Yeah.
no problem.
We got your
Yep,
back.
yep,
Yep.
understood." It wasn't really talked about, but at least everybody went, "Okay, makes sense." Because everybody had stories of
All of it. Things they couldn't do and the things that they've done.
and things they couldn't handle that
Sure.
they were thrust into. And so, I know law enforcement as a whole is getting better in that regard.
Yeah. So you're dealing with all of this stuff, right? And obviously some horrendous things are happening. And then when did you start to kind of find different ways to deal with it that weren't working so good? And what were some of those things that you were doing to try to manage what's happening in your career at this point?
I understand it much better now. I didn't drink. I didn't grow up in a household where you drank. As a matter of fact, it was discouraged. And all of my friends drank, and my wife occasionally would drink, and everybody around me would drink. And I just remember, the fear of missing out. What am I missing? And I knew, I had been a detective at that point for almost 4 years. And I just knew something's not right. I'm not firing all cylinders. I'm not, and remind me to tell you another reason I think I figured out later. But at the time, and so I kind of made this conscious decision of, hey, I'm going to start drinking with everyone. I'm going to start being part of the crowd. I'm going to start to try and assimilate myself into the group a little bit more. And it was fun. I had a great time. Like, this is what I've been missing.
Here it is. I've arrived.
Cool.
Always starts out fun.
And no, thought of me trying to drown out what was going on inside.
Right.
I didn't know what was going on inside. I just knew something I wasn't hitting all the marks that I thought my life should be. And for at least 6 or 7 years,
just normal.
Normal. It's fine.
Having drinks on the weekends,
Having
maybe
a good
occasionally
time.
on Taco Tuesday or something.
But it was slowly creeping.
Yep.
It was slowly creeping in.
Yeah, and that's what we know. It progressively gets worse and worse. Like, it's doing things that we don't even have any clue that it's doing. And to your point, like, you don't know at this point. Like, you're not consciously trying to drink away the trauma or anything like that. But on some level, you're probably noticing, like, hey, it's a lot easier to deal with after I've had a few, right? Or I come home and have one and unwind, and seems to be a little bit easier, right? And so your brain kind of locks on and goes, hey, let's just keep doing that. And you go through this 5 or 6 year period of like experimentation and like kind of doing the thing till you find the one thing that you kind of like consistently. But at this point, there's no real consequences to what you're doing. And no lack of performance at home, no lack of performance at work, right? Everything, I'm getting up, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I toss back 1 too many on the weekend every once in a while, not a big deal. But consecutively, I can do what I need to do and still have a few drinks here and there.
And it was probably worse because I drank for 9 years, and there's only a handful of times that I was actually hungover. I was the guy that I could drink, sleep for 6 hours, wake up like nothing.
Yeah.
I think that hampered that hampered. You talk about no negative consequences.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good. And that now knowing, but also to your point, having now knowing a lot more about myself, I'm pretty laid back. I'm pretty mellow, but I am actually very ADHD. My brain does not shut off, which I think is almost has to lend itself to being a good cop, because I mean, I would go to bed thinking about my cases, and I would wake up thinking about my cases, and I would think until I would go, oh, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to go talk to that person. And I can't tell you how many times it was like middle of the night, I went, oh, I got an idea.
There it is. Yep.
And I would run with it. And I don't think I even realized how much alcohol would just shut off my brain.
Yeah.
And I could relax.
So when did you start to recognize that the alcohol, when did it actually start to have consequences? When did it become a problem?
So probably about, like I said, probably about 6 years in. I was drinking more often than not, most nights than not. I was planning my weekends around alcohol, my adventures around alcohol. Yep. Like that became the center of it.
I think that's important to notice too, right? Or to kind of let people know, anybody out there who might be struggling, right? So there's oftentimes these very good amounts of time where there's no real issue with it, right? And I think this is where a lot of people get hung up, is they don't understand that there's a progression to alcoholism, right? And alcoholism comes in all kinds of different forms. A lot of people like to think, oh, the alcoholic is the guy who's underneath the bridge over there, doesn't have a job. And it's like, no, I work with a lot of very high functioning alcoholics, man. And you know this, right? And so, but there's a progression, and there's some things that start to happen. And to your point, it's these things where it's like, it's kind of on this subconscious level where all of a sudden it's like, where are we going to eat? What do they serve there, right? Oh, steaks. And what? Like, is it a full bar? Yeah. Can I get hard alcohol? Can I only get beer? Like, what are we talking about?
Because I never liked beer. I mean, beer I would drink, but that wasn't my thing. So if it was like, well, it's beer only, I was like,
well, how about this place? Yeah. This place is really nice too. We've never tried that, right? And so now we're starting to plan events around it. We're starting to look at it, right? And it's really starting to seep its way into our life in other areas, right? It's no longer just a thing on the weekends. With this occasional, like I said, maybe a Taco Tuesday thrown in here or there, or, got off a little bit early and on one day and we're going to unwind a little bit. Now there's more days spent drinking than there is not drinking. And that is where it's really progressed to this point. And I like what you said. It's like, I'm starting to plan events around, right? It's like, hey, we're going over to so-and-so's birthday party or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, great. What are they serving? It's like, dude, it's a 6-year-old's birthday party. Like, what do you mean? Oh, well, okay, cool. We'll get Johnny the latest and greatest Nerf gun. And I'm going to give dad this bottle of, Makers or whatever it is, Johnny Walker, right? And it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And it's like, to your point, it's like I'm starting to plan all these events around drinking. Am I going to be able to drink?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to cope? Is what I'm really saying at this point, right? Because I may or may not be starting to understand that without the alcohol, I can't deal with everything else that's going on.
Oh, absolutely. And I one of the other negative things that I was doing, that it was almost like, the old dad trope of falling asleep on the recliner. Well, I was falling asleep on the recliner because I drank way too much. Yeah. And I'd wake up at 3:00 in the morning and I'd go upstairs and crawl into bed. My wife would be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And when finally I realized that it was out of control, that was one of the things I was really worried about, was my sleep. I was scared to death
that you weren't going to be able to sleep.
That I wasn't, which is insane.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem sleeping.
Yeah.
It's not like I drank to sleep, but I had just become so accustomed to that.
Yeah.
That I was like, I'm going to have all these problems sleeping, and it's going to be a thing. And spoiler alert, it wasn't. It didn't.
Never skipped a beat.
Never skipped a beat.
It's interesting too, because a lot of people get caught in that cycle and they're like, I need the alcohol to go to sleep. Yep. And it's like, okay, so at what point do you recognize that you're getting up at 3:00 in the morning because the alcohol wore off? Yep. And now you got to go take another shot or slam another beer so you can go back to sleep. Right. And so it's like, and some people reach that point, some people don't, but
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We eat like I needed to sleep. And then, yeah, you're
It's
right.
actually the big thing that's disrupting your sleep
screwing my
because
sleep up.
it knocks you out for a little bit, but then it wears off and your body goes into DTs, and now you got to go downstairs or in the bathroom cabinet behind the mouthwash. You got your little stash.
Oh.
I don't know if that's what
That
you
was
were
the
up to.
trunk of my car. Near the end, it was the trunk of my car. Yeah.
But it's like, we're doing all these things. Yep. And that's another thing, right? It's like now we're hiding it,
That's,
right? What normal drinker hides alcohol? We don't, right?
well,
Or they don't. I'm
okay.
not a normal drinker.
Okay.
But.
I did, but, I was getting in trouble for drinking all of our alcohol. So then if I just hide the alcohol, then they don't know that I'm drinking all the alcohol. And it's a perfect plan that nobody's ever thought of before. And that was, looking back, that should have been my first, this is the worst thing that you could have ever done in your life.
Yeah. But you rationalize, you justify, you deny, you do all the things. And so you keep this up for about 9 years. What was that precipitating event? What was that final thing that made you realize, I need some help?
So, me and my wife split up, and it was part the drinking. It was, just my life was out of control. Nobody knew. No one knew. I mean, she kind of knew. She knew that something was up, but to the level that I was, no one knew.
Yeah.
I was able to keep working. Obviously I got to work. I can't show up to work drunk, but I was getting to the point where I would have to leave immediately and take a drink in the car ride home, or I would be too shaky to make it
To get home.
I felt terrible. I still to this day, and I've told him, I remember I was on call and I get a phone call from my sergeant to go in, and I have to tell him no. And I was getting paid to be on call. That was my job, to be on call. And I had to make up, I'm sick or whatever. And I felt horrible about it.
You drank too much?
I drank too much.
Yeah.
And I knew I couldn't go in. I was like, I can't drive. But the last night I drank, we were out with some friends. And I drank too much. I had to pick up my oldest son and drop him off someplace. And I've been worse, but it was enough where I was like, I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done this.
Yeah.
When me and my wife we got back together, during the period that we were off, I just absolute bottom of the bottle. You can't get any further down in there than I did.
Nobody monitoring you at this point.
And they were very good with me taking time off because of what was going on. So there were days I'm like, I'm just not coming to work. I'm not coming to work. And I would just very quickly, I knew, I'm in deep this is no longer sustainable. Whatever it is that I've been doing is no longer working. And of course, I wanted to fix it all myself. Keep it secret. Don't tell anybody. Don't let anybody know.
Yeah.
And I'll just fix it. And so I'll stop. And I couldn't stop. And I started shaking, and I started, my blood pressure would go up, and I would get hot. And I started Googling ways to taper off of alcohol. And it was like, all right, for a week, you drink
this amount. Good old Google.
But I was like,
again, teach out a home detox.
I was like, I can't do that.
Right.
I have a job. I can't. I got to take 3 weeks.
My 3 shots at lunch.
Yeah. I was like, I guess
it's my detox taper.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's medicinal. And I just, the last night, and I knew, and it's so dumb. It's dumb. I go to walk up the stairs. I've never fall down drunk. It's nothing like that. And I go to step up my steps. I've done this since, and I guess what makes it really weird for me. And I went to go up the step, and I just pivoted wrong, and so I rocked backwards, and I kind of hit. We have a little table. Well, at the time we had a little table that was right there, and I kind of backed into it. And my wife's upstairs, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah." And somehow, my walk to the top of those stairs, I convinced myself, you got to say something. And walked right in, sat on the bed, and said, "I'm not okay. I'm out of control. I cannot stop drinking. I'm a full-blown alcoholic. I don't know what to do." And to my wife's credit, it was not received well at first.
Sure.
By the morning, we had talked it out. It was the dumbest thing I've done in my life. Was then I was like, okay, I'm just not going to drink. I'm just going to muscle
Just
through
gonna
whatever.
cold turkey this.
I'm just going to cold
Google
turkey.
didn't tell you not to do that.
That's true. And so I'm just going to muscle through it. And I was okay. It was Sunday morning. So Sunday I was fine. Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, I start throwing up.
Yeah.
And I don't stop. And there was nothing to throw up.
Nope.
And I remember being on my bathroom floor so much, I bruised my knees and the tops of both my feet. Super cold sweat. Just couldn't sleep. It was just out of control.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, or Sunday night into Monday morning, I said, I have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I cannot, this is not good. Whatever this is, it's getting worse.
Oh, and it will only get worse. I mean, alcohol withdrawals, one of the withdrawals that can actually kill you.
Yeah, I wish they would have put that on the bottle someplace.
Yeah, right? For those of you guys out there who are thinking about quitting cold turkey, please go to the hospital.
And I spent 4 days in the hospital. 3 days.
That's four. I thought it was 4 or 5, but yeah.
Yeah, I hallucinated.
Oh yeah.
I was aware that I was hallucinating. That didn't help. You know, I had to tell my kids. That was hard. That was real hard.
That's difficult.
And my wife had actually contacted the Counseling Team International and said, "Hey, what do we do?" She was aware of it. We'd used their services before, and they were the ones who recommended first responder wellness. And I was like, okay. And I'm sitting in the hospital just going like, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what, and it was just, you know, I guess it's almost the like we talked about the like, just, okay, let's just go. And that's kind of what I agreed to. And I said, okay, let's just go. Okay, I'll go, whatever. Let's just go. And my wife drove me down. She packed all my stuff. And I was terrified.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, I don't scare easy. But I was, I had no idea what to think. I had no idea what was in store for me and how it was going to look. And before I went to the hospital on Monday, obviously I was supposed to be at work.
Can we get him some water?
I had to call my sergeant, and I had to tell him, and he is one of my dear friends. He was my boss, but he's one of the boys. And so I had actually called my partner Jim, and then I called Todd, my sergeant, and I told them both, like, this is what's up. This is what. And at first, you know, they're like, is this a joke? Like, this is not funny. What are you doing? And I was like, no, guys, I'm dead serious. I am en route to the hospital right now.
Wow. So they really had no clue that you were that bad off. I mean, I'm sure people knew something was going on. They just hadn't quite put their finger on what it was.
I still get told that nobody had any idea.
Wow.
And every time my blood pressure would go through the roof and I would feel it flushing and my heart would be beating and I'm like borderline shaking, I was like, everybody notices. Everybody knows what's going on. Like, how do you not? Nobody had any clue. And I know, had they known, they would have intervened.
Sure.
And they would have done whatever, because when I did tell them, they went out of their way to help me, to help my family. I cannot thank those guys enough. it was probably the hardest thing that I did in my life, but at the same time, it was pretty easy because
you knew.
I just dropped
Yeah.
it all.
You
I've
knew.
I'd been carrying all this weight, and
Yeah.
I just went, just
On
let it
some
fall.
level, there comes a bunch of relief. It's terrifying at the same time as it's relieving, because it's like, okay, cat's out of the bag. Like, here it is. Here's what I'm dealing with. I can't do it anymore. I don't know how I'm going to get better. I don't know what we're going to do to quote unquote fix this thing. But what I do know is I'm no longer harboring this secret, and I don't have to pretend that everything's okay.
I remember just, it's the just giving it up to God and just saying, okay, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And I remember still having a plan in my head of like, I don't have to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like I can
keep
tell
this
yeah, I get these, I'll fix
Go
this.
over here, do this, and get right back to work.
Like I was never gone. And about a weekend to being a first responder, I get a phone call from Jim, and he goes, "Hey, man, I don't know what else to keep telling these people, but you work with a bunch of detectives, and they're asking questions, and
They're going to figure it out.
they're not buying our story." My story is I was having blood, which is true. I was having all kinds of blood pressure, but they're like, nobody stays in the hospital for 2 weeks for blood pressure. Like either they figure it out or you're dead. And he's like, what do you want me to tell him? And I went, tell him the truth.
Wow.
Tell him the truth. And he's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm 100. My whole idea of keeping it secret just fell apart in that one phone call. And, I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, that's like a secret, just like being an alcoholic was for me, that if they knew, they could kind of use it against me, right? Is what I thought, or hold it against me, not necessarily use it. And so, this way they can't use it against me. They can't hold it against me. It's I'll tell anybody.
There it is. And, there's such a freedom in that too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, they're really, like, once you can just say, like, this is it. This is what I've been dealing with. I'm on the road to recovery, but here it is, right? And you don't, because there's so much that comes with, again, right, having to wear that mask and act like everything's okay. And I was a little stint with some blood pressure over here, and I just took some time, like whatever BS you were going to try to feed them, but knowing like I'm an imposter, man. Like that doesn't sit well. And I think there's so much more freedom in being able to say exactly what you did, like tell them the truth. As terrifying as it is, there's also a huge part of relief in like, this is what I'm dealing with.
And it was so funny because then the phone calls would start every couple of days. Somebody I hadn't talked to in a couple of years. Yep. I was like, hey, buddy, what's up? And they're like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good, man. So, what'd you hear? And I'm like, well, I heard you're in rehab. Yeah, it's true. Was it like pills or something? No, alcohol. And they're like, what? What?
Had no idea.
Yeah. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? When you talk about being honest and telling everybody, I didn't know what that was going to look like in the long term. I just knew like, okay, in this moment right now, I'm just going to tell the truth. And when I went back to work, right at the start of COVID and everything's going off, and they were making hand sanitizer in alcohol, like tequila. And I remember everybody sitting behind me, and somebody had this hand sanitizer that they're like, this smells like tequila. I think it smells like tequila. And I hear them talking about it.
Right.
And then somebody goes, well, let's ask the expert. Hey, what do you think it smells like? I walked right up and went, tequila. And everybody laughed. And that was the first time I realized everybody was like, everybody was kind of sitting on pins and needles.
Right.
Like I was going to react to it.
Yeah. Are we going to break in? We're going to set him off.
Yeah.
Is he okay? Yeah.
He's going to go run into the liquor store across the street.
Yep.
And so after that, I mean, it was just, and my my boss and my partner, they were very good about making fun of me in front of everybody.
Treat me like everybody else, please. You make fun of everybody else.
Yes. Yeah. Please don't leave this out. And people would see that I was okay with it.
Yeah.
I liked it. But also, it was to my benefit. I mean, it's a way of keeping myself responsible. If everybody knows,
Yeah.
if they see me sitting at a bar having a drink, even if it's a Dr. Pepper,
Right.
somebody
better be asking some questions.
those phone calls are going to go out, and it's going to come back around like, hey, bro,
where are you at right
now?
now?
What are you doing? So it's a little selfish in that regard that it does. It just keeps me honest.
And I want to kind of back up just a little bit because I think this is really important. And I think it's such a difficult piece for first responders, but law enforcement in specific, when your alcoholism has progressed to a point of like chipping away at your own moral integrities, your own values, and you're doing the very things that you swore an oath to protect other people from, such as drinking and driving, right? And picking up your kids and all of these things that happen to go along with too much drinking or alcoholism. I think it just becomes such a much more difficult process for first responders to step out, and law enforcement in specific, and say, this is what I'm dealing with, right? Because to your point, it's like, no. You're not allowed to do that, right? Yep. We protect people from this. So you're not allowed, not only are you not allowed to have these struggles, but you're certainly not in a position to say it out loud and admit to it, right? And so I think there's such a bravery that comes with that honesty, but at the same time, it's terrifying because you just don't know. The reality is you just don't know who's going to support you. And to your point, who is going to hold it against you? Because unfortunately, there are those people that will do that. And so it's a risk that you have to take. But if you don't take that risk, you don't get well.
And I as bad as it sounds, and it's been 5 years.
Congratulations,
sir. Thank you.
That's a big deal.
When you start and you're like, I have 30 days, 5 days. Yeah. And, you hear guys with a lot of time on, you just think like, holy cow. And to me, it's just been a blank. I mean, it's
there you are.
But there was a part of me that felt that because I went to first responders, that my career was over. Mm-hmm. That there was something was going to come up, and I was going to be done. And at that point, it would have put me right at 20 years. I didn't want to go out like that, and but I knew that was a possibility. I knew that it was going to be something, and so I was like, but I had to. I couldn't continue the way I was. I couldn't, I was not going to just lose my job. I was going to lose my family and my life. And I know now that I was on the path to dying, period.
Yeah.
Whether it would have been 5 days later or 5 years later, if I had continued on the path that I was on, I would not be sitting here today. I know.
Yeah. It's a risk.
Yeah.
But the ROI, man, it's like, I've got to take the risk because at the end of it, I'm going to lose my life.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about my family, my career. I'm talking about actually losing my life, which unfortunately is the statistic of so many first responders. And I really do feel like a big part of that is because of the stigma, and that on a lot of levels, they're just not allowed to talk about what's happening, and they don't have the departments that will actually support them in getting help and getting back to work. So I do hope that those people that were involved in helping you through the process and those who were involved in getting you back to work, I hope you guys hear what you did in that, because that's tremendous. Because the reality is so many people don't get that support, and it stops them from actually going out and getting help because they know, hey, there was a guy who went out in our department and he tried to get help and the department just banished him. He lost his job. Everybody talks horrible about him. That's not me. They'll drink themselves to death or commit suicide before they'll actually go out and get help because they don't have the support. So thank God to those people who were in your corner, who actually followed through and got you through the process and back to work after leaving here, and are letting you. And I have to imagine on some level, right? Like you've been a really good employee, right? You've been a really good detective, but I have to imagine on some level as a supervisor, you're even better now than you were then because of this.
100%, 100%. I deal with me. Like I knew that this case or that I was working or this thing I was going to do was going to mess with me. So now I see it from these, I call them kids, they're,
Youngsters,
late 20s, early 30s, but to me, they're kids. I was just texting with Jim earlier this morning about, well, that's exactly what we would have done. Like
back in our day,
them pulling little shenanigans like, okay, yeah, we promise we won't arrest anybody. We're on standby for this thing. And then they're like, oh, hey, look at this guy. I just found him walking down the street. He's got this warrant, and you're like, that's what we would have done. So the tricks, but then I also know what some of those things did to me and know that this is something you can't ignore. And you see these guys, especially the ones that have little kids, and you see them go to these calls where a kid dies, and you're just like, hey man, listen, like even if it's just to tell them this is going to mess with you, this it may not feel like it, you may think you're all good,
right?
It's going to mess with you. I think it was Dr. Odom that when my first couple of days here, and he says, why are you here? And I said, because I can't stop drinking. And he goes, no.
Why are you here?
And I was like, I'm pretty sure. Like, that's what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, tell me your worst cop story. And I was like, oh, well, I got one. And he's like, okay, what's your second? I was like, I don't have a second. Like, that's the one. I know that one bothers me. And he goes, please tell me all of the images that are burned into your brain that if they just come up at random times or you just, if you think about it, they'd immediately pop up. And I was like, oh, how much time do you have? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know, to me, that wasn't trauma. That wasn't
right.
But then you realize you're like, oh man, that came up. I'd be out with my kids.
Yeah.
And that image pops into your head.
Yep.
And, I would dismiss it, but I knew it impacted my time with my family, or it made me sad in a time where I should have been happy with my family.
Yeah.
And it's all of those things that you try and tell them, like, even though we're out to do good and we're out to try and help people, we unfortunately can't always. Just be aware of it. Just be cognizant that these are the things that are going to affect you, and please don't go down the rabbit hole of drinking.
And here's the resources, right? And here's my experience. Like, everybody kind of knows your stories, which is cool. So I would imagine on some level people are comfortable coming to you from time to time with like, hey. And it's always funny when you're the recovery guy. You'll get the yeah, well, I don't drink that much, right? Like, I drink every once in a while, and you're like, that's fine. I really ask how you're drinking. Or you get the guys that come up and be, hey, what do you think about, like, I'm doing this? What do you think I got a problem? And the first thing I tell anybody is, like, if you're asking me whether or not you think you have a problem or I think you have a problem, you got a problem. You just came to the professional, asked if you have a problem. Let's get to work.
And it's funny is how many times I will get the, we're in a group and everything, and then like the group goes away, and then the one person's like, hey, can I talk to you?
Hey man, can we?
Yeah. Can I talk to you real quick? Yeah. What's up, man? And
which is great.
And all I can, a lot of times what I tell them is like, look, you'll know. You'll deny it to yourself, but you'll know. You will know, like, if you're in deep, if your life is if alcohol is negatively impacting your life and you can't stop, That's the thing. And then I always add, it's like, well, if you're hiding alcohol in your house, that's like for sure. Like
There's some things going on there. Yeah.
Obviously, it's the recovery thing because I will tell anybody who will listen. I've been very upfront with my kids about the whole thing.
Nice.
Because I just don't want, like, I'm like, hey guys, this is in the blood. It's in the genes. It's a thing you're going to have to be aware of. But, you know, it's so rewarding to be at work and to pass on these things that were taught to me when I was a baby deputy and a baby detective and show these new guys, like, this is how you do this.
Yeah.
But also to have that, like, hey, come here. Are you good? You know, are you... I have several that are brand new dads. And I'm like, oh, I completely remember.
Walk through that, yeah.
You know, and just saying, hey guys, you got to talk to somebody. The second you start realizing that this is not getting out of your head, it's time to talk to somebody, and it's talk to me. I mean, I get the apologies all the time. Hey, I'm sorry to be calling you, and I'm like, no.
Thank you for calling me.
If I answer the phone, you are not bothering me.
Yeah.
And if I can't answer the phone, I'm calling you back because obviously if you're calling me and I'm not at work or something's up.
Yeah.
And most of it's professional, but every once in a while it'll be a personal thing. And you're like, hey man, what can I do?
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have taken the help myself. Because at the time, I don't think I was ready for it.
Yeah.
But about the time that I realized I was in deep, I probably would have jumped all over it.
And two, it's like if somebody actually reaches that point, and obviously we want them to get help before, but if somebody ever does reach that point, you look back at where you were at, and it's like they'll have you. Right? Like there's a you. Like you didn't have a you at the time, right? They'll have you and they'll be able to say, hey, here's what's going on. Okay, great. I know what we can do. So outside of like being able to help people and people being able to come to you, how else is your life looking different these days now that you're 5 years sober?
It's funny. I say this often. I do feel much more like the old me, the pre-drinking me. You know, I have the face where we would go out and we would do things with people. And I remember we'd be sitting at a bar and my wife and her friends are dancing or everybody's having a good time. And I'm just sitting there and everybody's like, oh, you're having a terrible time. I'm like, no, I'm having a great time. Like, it's just my face looks like this. Like, it's just, this is the way I am. And so I still enjoy going places, but I've also really started to focus in on me and what the positive things that I can do to make myself feel better. I grew up, my dad was very into muscle cars, Mustangs. Growing up, there was always one at the house and I've owned several. But then you realize like, there's not a lot of bars at car shows and there's not a lot of, you know, it's like, and so I kind of left that hobby to the wayside. And I've really been trying to push back into it and really trying to go, okay, this is for me. I need to be okay with doing, because I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was always for somebody else. I was always everybody else before me.
Yeah.
You know, hey, there's 30 seconds left in this thing, whatever it is. And I would hold the door for everybody for 29 seconds and walk in for the last second. And I felt like I was happy and I wasn't.
Right.
My being able to be open about my struggles and being able to, you know, be present for my kids and they're kids, they're basically grown adults now, but to be able to help my boys. I have 3 sons and they're all so great. I look back on times that I was like, man, I wasn't there. I was there, but I wasn't there. And so trying to be there for them, my poor wife that had to put up with just me checked out. I was never angry drunk. I was never violent drunk. I was a power down drunk.
Just unavailable.
Just click, turn the brain off. I'm good. So that has been, I think, the biggest thing that I took away from here was that I had to fix myself. I had to work on myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't just work on everybody else because then I'm not taking care of myself and things just go to crap.
A lot of people step into that space, and it's interesting because I'll hear people here say, it's time for you to be selfish. It's time for you to think about you. And I often look at people and I say, well, I like to look at it a little bit different, right? I think in this way, when you're putting yourself first, right, to work on you so that you can be a better version of you for everybody around you, rather than constantly putting everybody else first, it's actually selfless. It would be selfish to continue down the path that you were on, doing the same patterns and behaviors, knowing that there's a catastrophic result at the end of it. That to me is selfish. It is selfless in the position of like, let me make sure that I'm okay. Let me put my oxygen mask on so that I can then be there for everybody else. Because what we've learned, right, is that, I mean, you started off, early on, always looking out for other people, right? And it just innately becomes this protector and this provider of everyone and everything around you except for you, right? To the point where it's like you're putting your own life at risk constantly, right? And putting your own mental health at risk constantly for the benefit of other people. And so that's the that's the first responder. That's the selflessness of the first responder. And so many people don't realize that really innately is who you guys are, right? It's interesting to watch. And it's like, and it's difficult sometimes when people are here because we got to work on trying to get them to not take care of each other all the time. It's like, hey, so-and-so is going to struggle. It's going to be okay. It's not to say that we're not here, we're not supportive of one another, but it's also like the minute somebody's in distress, man, you guys are on it. And it's like, hold on just a minute,
That's what we know.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's get in there and we'll figure out all your stuff. Let's not talk about me.
And so realizing that was at your own detriment, right? Like that was what was literally killing you. And now it's like, hey, let me see where I'm at in this position and how do I start giving back to me so that I can be that better version for my wife, for my kids, right? So that I can actually be present for them at this phase in their life, right? Like, I wasn't always there before, but guess what? I'm going to be here today and I'm learning how to do that, right? And you're on that path of recovery. And so much of that just comes from being sober in itself, right? Like just removing that piece allows so much room for all of these other things.
I didn't realize it at the time. And now, you look back at it and you understand I was just checking out.
Yeah.
And it was so easy.
Yeah.
And so you disconnect from all your worries, all your troubles, and I don't have to worry about them probably until the next morning when I wake up.
Right.
And the fog that I was in.
Yeah.
I look, like my youngest son asked me, he's like, hey, Dad, so you get, doctor tells you have 4 months to live. You're not going to start drinking again? And I go, no. Why? And he goes, well, you loved it so much. I mean, wouldn't you? And I said, I don't want to spend my last 4 months on earth out of it.
Yeah.
I go, I was
checked
out. I did it to check out of stuff. And he's like, well, would you want to check out of being sick? I said, but I wouldn't want to check out of the rest of my life.
Right.
If I knew I had that, I would want to be clear-headed during that time. I wouldn't want to just lock myself in my room and be passed out drunk the whole time.
Right.
And as there are parts of drinking that I miss. But then all I got to do is think about what that looked like. Right. And I go, well, there's way more that I don't miss.
Right.
There's way more.
Yeah.
Just, I don't even know. I don't even know what I was doing other than just being. Yeah. I was
drinking.
You're drinking. Yeah.
We're just drinking.
And that's, you just look at it, you just kind of go like, it makes me uncomfortable to think about it because and at the time I knew how bad it was.
Yeah.
But then I was drinking, so then it was fine. But yeah, I feel so much more me. I feel so much more my captain at the time, when he was in the chain of people that knew about me coming to first responder wellness. Probably about 3 months before I came in, they were talking about somebody. And my captain, who I loved, he's retired now, he says, man, some of the best cops I've ever worked with have all been stone cold alcoholics. And he goes, and then they get sober and then they just turn into nothing. They just don't do anything with it. They just stop being these high level cops.
Interesting.
And they just kind of fade into, and then he was giving examples of people. And I'm sitting there in my full blown inner panic of I'm a stone cold alcoholic and I don't know what to do. And, I just remember at the time thinking hey man, I'm right here. Why are you talking about me like that? And so when I went in, I was like, oh, I'm not what he said. I'm not doing that.
Me.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so it allowed me to kind of focus back. It gave me a purpose as far as work-wise. I was not going to go out like that.
Interesting.
I was not going to ride out my last remaining years just sitting there collecting a paycheck. And that was another factor that drove me into trying to promote. And that was Ed, was my partner who talked me into it. And he said, well, first he said, are you going to let your sons become cops? I said, no. And he goes, okay. Who are you going to pass your craft along to? Who are you going to teach?
Yeah.
The next generation's going to be here. They're here. Well, who are you going to? And he's like, I get it. You train all kinds of detectives. Done that for years. Great. He goes, you teach these brand new guys the stuff that you know. And he goes, it'll carry them the rest of their career.
Nice.
And so it was those sorts of things that I looked, because prior to that, I was like, I'll be a detective until I retire. This is it. And I think had I, maybe not been so bad, but if I'd stayed drinking, I probably would have just stayed a detective, and it would have been fine. And I would have worked cases. I liked working cases. The bigger, the badder, the more messed up it was, the more I liked it.
Yeah.
But that, and I was sober when we had that conversation. It really spoke to me. And I was like, oh man, he's right. He's right. He's 100% right. And then I promoted, and
there it is.
I was like,
nice.
I've had to go on an apology tour to all of the supervisors that tried to push me to promote. And I was like, no way.
You're out of your mind. Yeah.
And I apologize because I'm very, very happy for where my life has been over the last 5 years.
Nice. So your relationships are better. You got a clearer way of thinking. You've been able to promote to supervisor and start training some of these new guys into this thing. So sobriety and recovery has really kind of benefited you in so many ways. So, walking through this with you and being able to see where you came from and how you got into it and some of the contributing factors to why it is that you started the drinking and where the drinking took you, to where you are today. It's such a tremendous privilege and an honor to sit here with you and to know you and to know your story. And to have watched you grow in all of this and come back and, go on the alumni retreats and be available to help other people. And it just speaks volumes to who you are and kind of what you're about and what's important to you. So I'm in deep gratitude to you for that. As we kind of wrap this thing up, if there's somebody out there who might be struggling or looking to or in a position that you were in, what would you say to them?
When I was in the academy, in 2000, I was in the academy. And I remember all of my instructors saying this, and now I understand it. I didn't understand it then. Multiple instructors would talk, they would teach their block or whatever, and then they would say, hey guys, get a hobby. Get a hobby outside of this job, away from this job, nothing to do with this job. Get a hobby, please. And you're like, why is everybody saying that? And I remember distinctly thinking like, man, this is like the fourth guy that said this. Like, what is going on? And then I didn't look into it further. So if you're new, if you're starting out, take care of yourself, get a hobby, take care of your family. Don't make overtime the number one priority. And you got to take care of your family. Yes, financially, but spend time with your kids, spend time with your wife, spend time with yourself.
Yeah.
If you're going through it really hard, you cannot get out alone.
Yeah.
You just can't.
True. And there's help out there. There's resources out there. So just know that. Again, James, it's been an honor and a privilege.
Always.
Appreciate
Always
you
great.
being here. So I think we'll wrap it up right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.